Joan Quinn is the former West Coast editor of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and society editor of the Herald Examiner. Her cover stories are seen in Venice and Detour magazines, and she is a contributing editor to Angelus magazine. For the next half hour, Joan will bring you inside news and views on society, art, film, and the exhilarating worlds of these multifaceted people. Here is Joan Quinn.
Welcome to Joan Quinn, etc. I'm Joan Quinn, and we're happy to have you back with us. Our guests today are artist Richard Bernstein and shoe designer Manolo Blahnik. Blahnik makes waves wherever he goes because of his fantastic shoe designs. New York's Avenue magazine explained why an expensive pair of shoes, $415 to be exact, costs so much. They talk about the last and the suede and the color and the dyes. He was at Neiman Marcus recently making waves, and we did this short interview with him. Watch while we talk to Manolo Blahnik. We're here in Neiman Marcus, Beverly Hills, with designer Manolo Blahnik. We came to him at Neiman's because he just opened a shoe boutique here and couldn't come to the studio. Manolo designs shoes exclusively. How did you become a designer just of shoes?
It was accidental, total accident actually. I went in New York to see Mrs. Vreeland with my sketches, and she didn't look very much about my sketches. She said, "Oh, I love those shoes that you got in the models and the mannequins." So this is the way I started, and you know.
Oh, you were doing dresses?
Yeah, I was doing sort of sets for films and theater projects of things like that.
And she, of course, was the editor of Vogue at that time?
Yeah, 1971, the last year of Madame Vreeland.
So she was a great influence on you.
She was a great help, yes, indeed. She advised me rightly, and then started the shoe business.
Do you consider shoes in the accessory group, or do they stand alone?
You know, shoes is objects, not even accessories any longer. To me, it's just objects. It's like sounds pretentious, but you do a chair, you do a furniture. This is in that category that I call shoes, because it's like total different technique to do a shoe, to do a dress, you see. So,
is there a certain image that you follow? Do you have to think about the design that is happening during each season, or how do you go about designing shoes to go with
also,
it?
Well, I mean, I'm very lucky. I never ever so far used this kind of technique of thinking just like what people do, or trends. No, I've been very lucky, and sort of so far my shoes coincide with what people are wearing, and that's it. I was very simple as a question of just luck. Do
you design different groups each year, or do you design one big group?
Well, I do. I mean, it works that way. You see, I do have in mind when I start collections sort of like elegant shoes and sort of casual shoes. So I divide my thoughts in those kind of two categories. You see, so I do a collection of sort of sportive shoes and very sort of high evening or high fashion ones, couture ones.
Are you designing all year then?
Most of the time, yes, indeed, all the time.
Right?
Yes.
Do you present a shoe collection like
a designer?
Yes.
More or less. When I have a collection ready, which is twice a year, I just go around and I say to the ladies, the press, would you like to come that date or that day to my office to see what I'm doing? And this is the way it happened. But it's not a presentation to the press, like to mannequins and things.
No, you don't do that?
No, we do have a model in our office, on the salon, and she put the shoes on, and the editors look at them and they say that I like or that I don't like.
So the public never sees it as far before?
Before, no. You see it when it's in the shop.
Where is the studio?
Well, I got two. I got two in the country. I live in England, in Bath. So I got one in Bath and one in Milan, which is my manufacturer's in Milan. So
these are all Italian-made shoes?
All of it, yes, by hand, yes.
And designed by an English person?
Well, I'm not English really, because my mother's Spanish, my father was Czech. So I don't have that kind of English or French or American. I'm one of those people, sort of fortunate people that haven't got problems with nationality. So I feel anything where I am, I feel, you know.
Do you speak different languages?
Yes. I got to. But it's not a big deal because I grew up in Geneva, so you speak everything in Geneva. Like a parrot, you know, when you're a child, you just pick up everything, you know, like sort of French. And
so when the manufacturer is in Milan.
Milan, outside Milan, yes. It's always outside somewhere, the manufacturer, because it's around the centers, industrial centers. So I got one for very high shoes, like sort of very elegant shoes, like this one, if I might say. This is, but it's like very elegant, sort of velvet, silk velvet and buckles, and you know, it's got to have a different elegant hand.
Do the designers then use your shows in their couture shows?
Some designers use my shoes in her shows, yes.
They do?
Yes. In America, for instance, one of the most popular designers that I love to work with is, on the very elegant end, is Mr. Bill Blass. And then the younger, more Isaac Mizrahi. So I work
so you
with
go both ways.
I do have no restrictions between.
The one thing that always comes to my mind is there are so many designers in the world, so many dress designers in the world, and the clothes go out in shops, and then they have to come and pick a pair of shoes. That's why I keep wondering if there's like this feeling that you have with designers, or if certain designers think that a Manolo Blahnik shoe goes better with their clothes.
This is sort of a question of the individuals sort of between themselves, but what I would love to work is, for instance, Mr. Blass say to me, I would love to do a very elegant shoe, so I present to him a series of elegant shoes, and then I adapt his taste to my shoes in the sense of colors and things. Yeah.
The shoes that you adopt for him, would they be for other people as well, or are they in the collection?
They exist already in the collection, but I do special things, colors, like his dresses, tweed, flannels, silks, with his Bill Blass signature or whatever.
The other thing, talking about individuals, I know you designed for all the famous, quote, ladies, Manola, Madonna, Manola, Madonna,
oh my goodness. Well,
Madonna, Bianca Jagger.
Yes, I mean, those ladies buy my shoes, yes. I'm fortunate again.
So you don't make special collections for them?
But for instance, if they say I would love to have a silver shoe to go with my thing, we do it, especially for them, but it's not designed as such, you know.
Well, they are special ladies. I bring you greetings from Angelica Houston.
So elegant ladies. I mean, the only quarter is they got to be an incredible ladies. It doesn't have nothing to do with beauty or wealth or importance or fame. The ladies I'd love to design with is an incredible they know what they want. This kind of determined people, and those ladies that you mentioned, that determined and elegant people. And this is what I like. The people I like to.
So are they in your mind when you're thinking about designing shoes?
Sometimes.
Take us from the beginning. How does a shoe start in your mind?
Do you want me to show you how the idea came through?
Sure.
I think I got some paper here, and I could show you. There's. Shall I do it like directly like that, or?
Does it start in your mind?
Yes. For instance, I have an idea, and I go to the pen, the thing. I just sketch. You know, I do this. For instance, I got into my mind to do a shoe like this, and I sketch it like that as a sort of memory thing. Let's say it's got things here or whatever it is. Or
how do you know what those things are?
I do know how they are, and then I have to do after this, I have to do a proper sort of, how do I say, technical drawing. This is the idea.
This is your idea.
From this sort of first scribble, you know, and then I come out with the real drawing, which is and then from here, I go to the cutting table, I cut the pattern.
Do you know how to cut a pattern?
Of course. I mean, I learned it after, I've been doing this nonsense for 17 years, so it took me a long time. I've never been to school to do shoes or anything at all, but I learned it from watching people in the manufacturers.
And then from the cutting of the pattern, where does it go next?
After the cutting pattern, I go to the heel, and then the last, and then the pattern on top of the last. So it's like a very, very sort of painful process.
And what kind of, when you talk about last, tell us exactly what last means.
The last is a piece of wood, what you have to put inside. Usually, at the beginning, it was to be made in wood. Now, only the original sample is made in wood, and then it's been molded in plastic, you see. So I have to sculpt it.
The last means what?
The last means the shape.
The shape of
the shoe, the future shoe. And I do that myself with a file. I sculpt it, you see, and then I put it in perfect sort of plaster shape or plastic shape.
Are lasts wider, narrower?
No, I do. All what I do is one. Doesn't matter. I do it narrow because this is another process. This is another technical thing.
And then somebody
it's like the machines and the people interpret it in different grades. B size, triple A, double A, whatever.
I see.
You understand?
I see. Yes, I see. That's what I was wondering. If you design with a particular wide foot in mind or narrow foot in mind.
No.
Do you design for comfort, or does it matter?
No. The most important thing is just, I think I got a triumvirate of things, which is the most important is comfort, quality, and look. This is three things that I always do, force myself to do, and that's why I do. And
everyone can wear them and
yes, anybody can wear this and be happy and comfortable.
You mentioned you were living in Bath. Bath is a beautiful
Georgian city,
but it's so far from everything.
Well, it's 2 hours and a half on the train from London.
Yes.
And that is good for me because I really do not work in big sort of environments, big cities.
But you're always on the plane. It's so far from the
everywhere.
airport,
I mean, it could be fantastic to live in Milan, but I'd rather have this hectic life and live in Bath.
Get on a train and go?
Yeah, I'm used to it now. So.
Do you design when you're on?
I think a lot on the planes.
So
I do my ideas. My grand idea come into the seat of the plane or plane seat. Or
you have a shoe boutique at Neiman Marcus here in Beverly Hills downstairs.
Bergdorf in New York and Bergdorf Goodman in New York and my own one in.
Where's your own one?
55th and
so it's
5th.
Only Blahnik?
Yeah.
Do you do any other kind of designs?
No.
Really?
No. I just
shoes?
force myself to do one thing well, which is shoes. And I don't want to any kind of other sort of branching out things like sort of dresses or tops or belts or whatever, you know.
Do you have any time for relaxation or leisure?
To tell you the truth, I love to relax just in one way. I cannot relax as a person by nature, but I love to go to the movies, to be lost.
So you must love it in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles for me, paradise. Really, really is.
Do you love movie stars?
Sounds like it's like in Los Angeles, but it's true. No, Los Angeles for me is like a total fantasy city, which is like, for me, is ideal. And is a city of a movie, so it's heaven for me.
Did you ever think of going on stage or acting?
No, I don't think I could, actually.
You're so dramatic.
I'm dramatic by nature, but I don't think it's one big difference, being dramatic and being an actor. I don't think I could be actor at all, no. No. Let other people do it. I mean, I'm not.
Well, we want to thank you for being with us today.
I have to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Manolo is known as the shoe designer to the stars, and Richard Bernstein is known as the portraitist to the stars. For 18 years, Richard Bernstein painted the covers of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine. He was born and raised in New York, where he continues to live. He's a graduate from Pratt Institute with a Bachelor of Fine Arts and received a Master's in Art History from Columbia. He does know about art. So after he stopped painting the covers, he plunged into painting full time and experimented with computer graphics as well. Since then, he's had a show in New York at the Rempire Gallery and a show at the Cornerstone Gallery in Beverly Hills. Richard, tell us what your current work is about.
Okay, well, I'm really excited about it, and it's so good to see you, Joni.
I'm glad to have you here.
We go way back, and actually, painting, fine arts was my first love, and when Andy passed, the regime changed, and I started to pursue the first thing that I was doing, which was my fine art. And this show tonight has a lot of computer images which are made into silk screens, and the photographic element, which I've always used and had been inspired by because of Andy, and prior to that, Richard Lindner is actually the reason why I went to Columbia. We followed him from Pratt to Columbia. He was a great teacher and a great master. And actually several artists have come out of that class of whatever year it was. Nancy Grossman was in the class and Barbara Nessum. And I'm quite excited, and I feel very good about the work that I'm doing now. And Henry Gelzelder has written this introduction for the catalog for my show, and I'm real excited about it.
You mentioned Barbara Nessum, who was one of the pioneers in graphic computer work. She was actually, I would say, a pioneer in graphics, and then she started teaching about computer graphics. Do you consider computer work real art?
Well, absolutely. It's a funny stigma as we go on. I mean, there was a moment there where they were doing prints with the neo-realists, and they felt they had to move into lithography. So silkscreen was sort of the last reproduction quality that the artist's hand was involved in. And when I first was exposed to computer, I thought everything looked alike, and it's not true. There are so many variables. And I was actually quite fortunate. I was introduced to it by a friend. I thought I was going to have to go to night school and study it for 2 years. But you work with someone. And I was introduced to it, and I showed it to Grace Jones, and I had done an album cover for her, which had developed into her video, animated. This was the Inside Story video, and Keith Haring was involved with that. It was sort of a nice, combination of people. And then I wanted to take it into my fine arts, and I didn't know how. And then I had a commission about a year ago for this to design stamps for the United Nations.
Oh, I know. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you use the computer in that?
They were the first computer-generated stamps for the UN, and it was very nice, and I was very pleased. It was very prestigious, and they said, "Thank you for taking us into the 20th century." I said, "Oh, I didn't know I did that."
Well, what happened?
What happened was that I started playing with the images on the computer, and what developed was that I found that I could sort of take the images, and it's just amazing, the machinery. You press buttons and you could get instant cubism, and it's just things like that, airbrush. And what I've done is taken the photo and the image and combined it into various other techniques that I use for backgrounds and things like that. But you could sort of make the photographic image look like a pool of paint. And it's kind of very exciting.
So where is the artist's hand when you talk about the artist's hand? Because that's always important to people. On the machine, or do you do something to the image after it comes out of the computer?
Well, the concept is there to begin with, like several paintings in the show. I think an important series that'll be in this Cornerstone Gallery is a triptych that I did of Greta Garbo. And I had worked with this very famous portrait he did of her, Steichen, which I'm sure was inspired by Brancusi's Madame Pagani.
The Steichen is the photographer who did
exactly. So the first image of this trilogy it looks very much like the Pagani, but it still, is pretty much intact. And then the second one starts to waver, and the background picks up on that. And the third one looks like a big pool of paint, and it's very exciting.
We have a catalog now. Are any of these done from the computer?
No, as a matter of fact, this is since my opening last year.
This is since the Rempire show you started
They actually haven't been seen before publicly.
But the show that you did in Beverly Hills
Yes.
at the Cornerstone Gallery was called Legends and Icons. So you had art icons and Hollywood legends. How did you decide what artists you were going to pick as your subject?
Well, this was a segue because the show I had in New York was homages to artists that I had liked very much, and Picasso, and I was more interested in the backgrounds and the total look, taking all these things a step further.
So you chose the artist that you particularly liked?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And what happened was that one of the images I did was of Van Gogh, an homage to Van Gogh. And it was funny because I thought, well, even though he was photographed, he is probably known in America mostly as Kirk Douglas, who won an Academy Award for Lust for Life.
Right.
And these people picked up on it, and it was very interesting because it sort of inspired me to take it a step further. So there's a Liz Taylor as Cleopatra in the show that's totally computer generated.
So
my hand isn't in it at all, but it's a series of concepts and things on the computer that looks like cubism in the back, and it's kind of totally integrated. It's very nice. I did one of Angelica Houston as Georgia O'Keeffe, where I just sort of combined the two images together. And the Garbo triptych is kind of the highlight.
That's good. I'm glad you brought us back to the computer, because we stopped where your hand is. Your hand is on the machine. Do you do the color? once you get the picture out?
Well, it depends. Each one is different. I can work in color, I could distort it, but there's a lot of painting going on
That's what
by
I wanna
myself.
know.
I mean, I still have the paint under my nails.
But you do still paint. You still do.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean,
That's what I want to get to that.
I'm incorporating all these these kitsch art things from the last 3 decades, like the spin art and the tie-dye backgrounds, that combined with the very high technical thing of the computer blends together very beautifully. It's very exciting.
When Andy was alive, you did the covers of Interview.
For 18 years.
For 18 years, and I brought some of the covers. But did he take credit for doing the covers?
Well, you know, there was a very fine line that, you know, for 18 years I was working on this thing, and Andy would love to I'm the first one to admit that his style inspired me terrifically, but within the framework and the limitations of the newspaper, necessity was the mother of invention. We had to push the color, and you know, that signature actually is my own.
The Interview signature. Can we get this on the there? And just the way you wrote it, everyone thought Andy had written Interview on the front.
This is true, and
Tom Cruise. See, you wrote that.
Yeah, it's kind of being chronicled now.
I'm going to turn these down so we can see 2 or 3 of them.
The 3rd time I painted Jodie Foster. And the technique sort of developed over the years and totally associated with Andy, and now in the biographies, which are interesting, it's finally being, you know, chronicled that I was the one indeed that had done all these covers, and I had this artistic rapport with Andy, and in his one-syllabic ways, it would be wonderful because he would nod, yes, I love it, or no, change the background color and stuff like that.
Richard and I both worked at Interview together, and we know what Andy would do. Andy would go down the street and tell everyone that he came in contact with that they were going to be on the cover of Interview.
Right.
And of course they weren't going to be on the cover of Interview, and we had to then tell them why they weren't going to be on the cover of Interview. He only wanted his stars on. Here's a great one of Stevie Wonder.
Now, this is true. We all sort of had to cover Andy's tracks and get in trouble within the framework of the working order of the people that were surrounded. But I think, you know, he put his point across very well.
And the last one is
Liza. Oh, that's going way back.
This is really an old one.
Yes.
But Liza, do you remember doing, I want to show you one picture from inside. You didn't do these, but this is, do you remember this picture?
Of course I do. They were all of 16 years old.
12 years old.
Joni's
the Quinn twins.
Twin daughters. The Quinn twins.
The Quinn twins. There. Matthew Ralston took the photograph. He just had a show at the Fahey Klein Gallery. One of the things, we look at the covers and we see all these different colors. Mm-hmm. Did you choose the colors?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that Andy loved about my work and why I continued to do the covers for so long. He loved the way I cropped in, and he loved my coloration. And anytime I would segue into something like that Diane Keaton you showed, I was very inspired by the Andrew Wyeth.
So you could come with your own ideas.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Did you usually know the subjects?
Most of the time, and that was for the benefit of the newspaper also, because, you know, within the framework of the newspaper image, I would take poetic license and make, you know, someone's eyes lavender.
Oh, right. We have a John Travolta. Are his eyes really blue? Hold it up, and I'll hold it up to there. And this shows what you turn in actually to the magazine before they put the writing on it. I think tilt it forward there.
It's a series of medium that incorporates airbrush and collage photography, and I kind of was able to express the essence of what I thought these
what they were?
What the people's personalities were, and this was kind of like a stained glass window because John Travolta at that time had I think it was Scientology, wasn't it? He was very much involved
yes,
with all
I think
of
he
that.
still is, yeah.
And,
so you capture
yeah.
those kinds of things. Why did you stop doing the interview covers?
Well, Andy, passed away, and they had wanted to continue, and then it was taken over by Brandt Publications, and in a way it was a blessing in disguise, because now that I look back on it, I have a body of work that's an entire collection associated with, Andy and myself, like a collaboration.
Gives you
so
more
I'm really
time.
happy about that, yes.
It's given you more time now to actually get back to working and doing what you want.
In my painting, which Andy always encouraged me to do.
Do you still do commissions of, say, the person on the street?
Oh yes, I mean, this goes on. It's interesting. I've been asked to do the official portrait for the Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Center by Kerry Kennedy Cuomo, and I'm excited about that.
Well, he's not exactly the man on the street, but
That's true.
if someone came to you and they wanted a portrait for over their mantle,
Right.
what would the process be?
Well,
Are you a
it's more or less-
photographer as well?
I do. I have taken several of my own photos. I've worked with photographers, and it's always been a thin line, because they eventually do become very stylistically my
So what
own
do you
work.
do? Tell us what you would do. I came to you and I said, I want my portrait done.
Okay. Well, we did a shoot, and I knew exactly how I wanted to see you, and at that time I remember it was you were and Sandra Rhodes were very close friends. Actually, I think that's one of the first people we had met together in Divine.
So
Then I took the picture, and I decided the feeling that I wanted, the shape, and I had asked her, I remember, because of your jewelry collection. She has this wonderful, wonderful collection of things.
And then from the
photo, I blew it up to silkscreen. I did some airbrushing on the actual image, painted the backgrounds, and then I incorporated them. I was very nervous because, indeed, the style has always been similar. And Andy used to say, "Do portraits; they pay your rent."
Yeah.
Not only was he right, but I felt hesitant to do it until I was absolutely sure that the imagery had become my own, which halfway through my affiliation with Interview and with Andy, it did. And so, yeah.
Richard,
Yes.
our time is almost up. I don't know, you talked so fast, I think you filled up the whole time.
All right.
Congratulations on your shows, both in New York and in Beverly Hills, and we're looking forward to seeing more of Richard Bernstein all over the world.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for being with us on Joan Quinn, etc., and we'll see you next time.